Welcome, IT changemakers, to the DEX Show with Tim Flower and Tom McGraw. Let's get into it.
Hello, changemakers. Welcome to the DEX Show. It's the end of the year, as I'm sure you noticed. And we do, Tim, don't we? We like to end our DEX Show years in a kind of with certain traditions. We had, as people will know, Jeff Wright for our end of year DEX Show interview last week. That was an excellent episode. Some scintillating stuff on AI adoption there. Got me thinking, Tim.
Yeah.
And we've got coming soon. Once we're back in January, we're gonna hear from Sam Gantner once again, giving us his now customary insight into what's coming down the pipe for Nextfin customers and the DEX industry at large in 2025. And today, Tim, most importantly of all, we have brought together the entire Reality Bytes panel onto the show for our end of year wrap up. So we've got Tim, of course. We've got Oriana. Hi, Oriana. We've got Dina. Hi, Dina. We got Megan. Hi, Megan. We got Sean. Hi, Sean. And we're going to be looking back at what happened in 2024, and maybe looking forward a bit also. But I'm excited, Tim. I'm always excited to bring the band back together and do this.
Yeah, because, we'll do a little retrospective, right? A look in the rearview mirror, think about what we've just encountered over the last year. And it's part of what I love about my job, too, hearing what other people are thinking, what they're doing. It's always good to get our team together and get those thoughts, too. So this will be cool.
100%, Tim. So we have asked everybody to think about what their characterization of the year was, Tim. Why didn't you kick us off with what you think 2024 was all about in our space, and if you like beyond, if there's personal or general tangents, feel free to introduce them.
So I gave it, we put this topic out. We know we're going to talk about what the year was like. I had a little bit of time to think about it. My first thought was it was the year of intelligence, kind of with a nod to the artificial side of intelligence and the human side. In thinking about it a little more, I really think it's more about introspection, right? The ability to put more data into your thought and enlightenment, right? Maybe that's the right word, enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
The more I talk with people, and I've had a great chance to talk to people around the world. They're really understanding that people are not going to be able to keep up with technology. So they're looking for more data, more intelligence, and more enlightenment for their people as well as their tech, so they can keep up with the freight train that they're in. So it was really, I think people are they're understanding that trial and error doesn't work, decision making failing fast. While interesting in a concept, it means your trial and error in your decision making as well as your troubleshooting. So I think enlightenment, intelligence, the year of data. I think it was we really gained some momentum in people realizing that they've got to have those insights.
It's funny you say that, Tim. I think Jeff highlighted that kind of some of the measures really forward-looking companies are doing to make sure their people are able and equipped to keep up with technology. I was very impressed with that. And I was very impressed with the customers who impressed me most one-on-one across experience this year were coming from organizations which had, structures in place to empower people to adapt to this new wave of tech that's coming down the line, without a doubt.
And from a personal side, it was really the first full 12 months that I was able to focus in this capacity and this role full time. In my 9 years here, I've had a full-time job in either sales enablement or business value management or customer success. And having a full year to do nothing but really my mission when I came here was to spread the word, and it's allowed me to reach people in ways that I hadn't been able to before. So it was really liberating to have that freedom to go wherever in the world I either felt I needed to go or was needed, work with both sales and marketing and product. It was for me personally and professionally, it was a really great year too.
Good to hear it. Yes, as DEX evangelist, you had a big year. Yeah, without a doubt. Oriana, I think let's go to you next. I think I'm right in saying we just heard from Tim about his perspective on his personal professional year, as it were. But I think your theme for the year kind of ties them both together, right? More organically, if you will.
Yeah, and to be fair, that may also just be my particular way of thinking about things, right? I'm
Sure.
seeing things from my own perspective. But to me, 2024 was definitely a year of big ideas and big changes. Although I really like that Tim said introspection because I'm always a fan of that. And it was definitely something that I experienced on a personal and professional level, as well as something that I observed in the world. But I think our personal experiences help clue us into what we pay attention to in the world, right? So, as my work changed, I was focusing a lot on understanding, for example, the business goals of our customers and the way that markets are changing, the way expectations of industries and different departments are changing, and how that affects how people work beyond the usual product research that has been my bread and butter for so long, where I look a lot more on the specifics of sort of the day-to-day operational ways people work. Now I've been focusing a lot more on the strategic needs of how people work, which is really exciting work. It's also very challenging work. So that's been a fun and interesting problem to be working on. And it's made me really conscious of how organizations are trying to mature, how they're trying to ride the tide of new technologies, which organizations are really trying to be leaders and make sure that they're the ones to be first to implement new concepts, new approaches, really pioneering those concepts versus others that need guideposts and are saying, we don't necessarily have the capability to take those gambles, but we want to see how other people are doing it so that we can do it effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's something that I've seen as we see these, a lot of excitement over new technology and also just the mindset of how to implement that technology.
100%. And what you're saying kind of ties in a little bit with what Tim was just talking about in terms of, and we were just talking about in terms of keeping your people ahead of
Yes.
the new tide of technologies. Tell us from your kind of market research and your conversations you've been having, how varied is that picture? Like, are you seeing companies who are quite blind to the need to do this and companies who are quite sharp with regards to it? And what do you think defines the right approach in your view?
I certainly don't presume to know the right approach or think that there's one size fits all.
Hmm.
And I don't think that most companies are unaware that changes are coming. I think that there's very different understandings of what those changes mean, especially in different verticals. What that looks like in terms of implementation will vary a lot. I do think that there are some companies that are much better positioned to take advantage of changes, of new technology, right? A really big theme that I've seen is how do organizations handle change management, especially because we are actually coming out of several years of a lot of change, right? A lot of new software, a lot of new um, technology, even before AI. And that's been extremely challenging. And it has, among other things, really highlighted the need for example, leaders who can lead through change. It's a very specific skill set that a lot of organizations don't have, even if they have solid leaders who can build, for example, strong culture or high engagement, right? Leading through change is its own unique skill set. And so that's one of the things that I've seen a huge appetite for is how do we handle change? Because that differs a lot at different organizations. So you have some organizations that have robust change management processes, that have entire teams dedicated to understanding what is the new technology, what is the potential impact, how do we predict that? And there are others who are saying, we don't have those resources. We know that something's coming, but it's much harder for us to anticipate that, to come up with a strategy when we are fundamentally much more operational. We work day to day. And so when big changes hit, it can be a big disruptor, right? It can interrupt the flow of work to make a change instead of being part of the flow of work to integrate new processes, things like that.
Brilliant. Thanks, Oriana. That's great. Megan, I'm slightly tempted. I'm slightly tempted to get your view on change and preparing for change, since you're a little cynical about some of my own efforts to prepare for change
Hi.
in our own team this week. But
Uh,
I could do that. I could do that. What do you think, Megan? Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's talking about
what Tom is referencing for the listeners in the call who aren't in our team chat at this
it. Go
moment
on, yes, spill it, knock it
is
down. Go on.
Tom is very excited about the impact that AI can have on the workplace and very excited on how it could make our team more efficient. And he put a big long message in our team chat saying, presenting opportunities for us to all upskill and get to know different AI and how it might support us in
Listeners,
our
they
roles.
ignored me. They
We
ignored me.
he did not get a single thumbs up. He did
Not a
not get a
thumbs
single
up
response.
between the whole team. My goodness.
And he asked me why, and I said, "Well, I think you're just the most excited about AI of any of us," which I think is fair and is true. But maybe you just have a cynical team. You hired us, so that's
Yeah. I thought I was a cynic. Okay.
But no, I think the point that Ariana makes about finding leaders who can lead through change, I think really stood out to me this year. My kind of theme for the year was inspiration. I think it was a year where everyone was feeling really inspired, really, of course, a little hesitant and cynical, maybe those of us who look at AI and think, oh, does it really need to write scripts and make art? Like, couldn't it solve other problems? But I think it was a year of inspiration, especially at the enterprise level of, how can we use these tools to enhance efficiency? What possibilities does this open for us? And for me, with my role of working with our customers on their content, and especially working with our speakers at Experience this year, that really stood out to me that compared to past years, speakers came to us really wanting to get on stage and share their vision, really wanting to get on stage and share what they saw the possibility in the future being, which I think in years past, people have wanted to share, what they're using Nextthing for, what they're achieving with the tool. This year, they came to us with these really strong visions, and it was our role to kind of help them shape that into a session. For people who want to know kind of more specifically what I'm talking about, I encourage you to go to the replay site and listen to Belen Ramirez's talk from Siemens. She shared a really inspiring vision. I think Jen Hewitt did in Boston. There's a bunch of sessions. Our own CEO, his keynote was definitely full of vision.
For sure.
So for me this year, I think it was a really inspiring year. I think everybody was sort of showcasing, hey, look what's possible. And I think Oriana's right. The best leaders in this time are the ones who can and who will be able to in 2025 say, okay, I have this vision. Here is how I'm going to enable my teams and my business to make this vision a reality. These are the tools I need. This is the strategy I need. These are the skills I need to make this vision a reality. And I think for the businesses that are positioned for it, 2025 is going to be a year where we're going to see people either sink or swim in terms of putting that vision into action and seeing, can I really drive that efficiency? Can I really achieve the death of the service desk, to reference our own story right now, or, a zero ticket future, or, really using technology to enhance business productivity instead of just constantly trying to clean up the same old issues again and again. So that's what I'm looking forward to in 2025 is seeing, are there actually outcomes people are going to drive with this? Are we really going to see a transformation?
Love it. And great citations as well, particularly, as you say, Belen's amazing presentation, which you did so much to collaborate on at Experience London. If you haven't seen that, probably the best customer keynote I've ever seen at any conference, and there'll be a link in the show notes to check that out. Really encourage you to do so. Belen from Siemens, I should add. Sean, you kind of isolated the same dynamic between 2024 and 2025, but what I like is the way you framed it. Your theme was exhale, which suggests taking stock, taking a moment, stepping back, being rational. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I think so. I got really spiritual when
Nice.
tapped into
Thanks, man.
the yoga phase of this. But I do feel like my other colleagues have alluded to earlier, 2022, 2023, there's a lot of new technologies coming out, and specifically with LLMs and ChatGPT. That's for a lot of people. Being able to see that and the scale at which it could work was very impressive, and it kind of sparked, both anxiety and wonder and what you could do. And I think this past year was kind of representative of people sort of stepping back and sorting through the hype and figuring out like what could actually be applied. And it's gone lock and step with our own product for me personally to see Sam and Pedro demonstrate the ways in which they could apply, OpenAI and some of the automations to solve real problems for people. That was really cool. And I feel like, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, there was this big wave with all these new technologies. And this past year, it's kind of been like, I don't know if anybody's been procrastinates like I quite do when I write. I think writing is a lot of procrastination until you finally get to that moment and you have to kind of exhale and just sit down at the desk and do it. And I feel like that's sort of happening this year. And I am optimistic for next year. I think that's going to continue to find its place because it's just with more time and more information, people are finding the right ways to apply answers to their specific problems instead of just, latching on to hype and not really knowing what they're doing.
I think you've given us our episode title, Sean, and Exhale 2024
There
in
you
review.
go.
Excellent stuff. Dina, if I'm not mistaken, if I've not missed anyone out, I don't think I have. The last word of the DEX Show, the last word of Reality Bytes for 2024 goes, I think, with some justification to you. What have you got for us?
Thank you. So, I apparently, as far as I remember, I ended the 2023 as well. So
Another tradition. Yes.
Yeah. So it's
Come
a
on.
double tradition now. It's becoming a tradition. So, okay. So in reflection, like Sean was just saying, taking a moment to go and reflect and see how you could have the year be looking like. There were plenty of things like the things that Tim mentioned, Oriana, Megan, and I know there's like more and more from how the ways of working have been changing, the year has been changing. I chose a theme of recalibration, which really implies that growing through a very fast-paced world like we're in right now, from both perspectives, actually, I'll just sum them up, the professional and the personal. We need to be continuously growing through life, learning, and the other aspect that I'd not mention on the chat, but it's the learning on both ends. It's learning for ourselves as humans and to actually learn or teach AI how we are humans. And I think this is the main differentiator. And we need to keep it up as much as they will keep on evolving, the AIs, the GPTs, and get integrated in our daily lives. It has a lot of pros and cons, right? But it's the moment of truth. That's where it would become more, let's say, mirror-like for ourselves, where we need to make peace with our shortcomings and work on the changes. So not everybody's able to pick up change, like Oriana was mentioning. We need leaders, we need processes, we need, well, people, process, and technology to pick anything up and make it valuable. And we need to look at the works that we do in the day-to-day life that keeps on changing. So we need to be more efficient, we need to integrate AIs, etc., etc. However, it's the thin line, right, that draws the silver lining between, is this true or is it not? Is it all part of the matrix, or is it the real life that we're living in? So we keep on having all of those visions and we work on them, putting them into action. It's just the point of recalibration. That's how I saw the 2024. Looking into 2025, I think it's the year of setting boundaries between what is really human and what's not. So AIs are developing. They have more and more capabilities every day, as much as we feed them whatever we're feeding them, from our good thoughts, negative thoughts, actions, words, choice of words, and choice of actions, or even choosing what kind of decisions we make. This is how they're trying to learn, mimic, and mirror what we do. But we need to be setting boundaries on where we need to have the human aspect of things. Humans are going to remain humans, and where we need to be using AIs in our day-to-day life, whether it comes to work or to our personal life as well.
And I think you brought in the Matrix at the end of last year's end of year episode as well, right?
I am, and now it's becoming a theme that I think I'll keep on
You have to
bringing
relate
it.
the year being to the Matrix. I love it. Right at the end.
Sure.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, no wonder we give you the last word, Dina.
Thank
And
you.
listen, we are. I think that was great contributions from everyone, and we are now going to be off for a couple of weeks, but we will be back. I think the first week of January. I've already mentioned we're going to hear from Sam Gantner about what's coming up in the year ahead. We've got a special episode we recorded with none other than Jacob Morgan. That's coming down the pipe very soon too. And excited to announce that we've got an interview with my favorite tech writer in the world, Charles Petzold. And that will also be out in January, I believe. So we're going to be starting the year with a bang. Just remains for me to thank everybody who listened this year, and we know we got a ton of new listeners this year. We were just reviewing all the podcast stats. We're so happy to have more people join the community, more people join the show as regular listeners. Thank you to every guest from NextThink and outside of NextThink who came on Reality Bytes, who came on the DEX Show. Huge thanks to Ella, who was our new producer who joined the show, who made a fantastic contribution, and to, of course, Catherine, our long-standing producer as well, and of course to the entire Reality Bytes team. Thanks to Sean, Oriana, Dina, and Megan. And Tim, I'd thank you, but I'm thanking everybody on behalf of you.
All good. It's you're starting to get a little long here, Tom. Wrap it up, buddy.
Fair play. But we are grateful. We've had a great year. We hope you have a fantastic break for winter, a fantastic winter break, and a happy new year to everybody who listens to this show.
Happy New Year!
Beautiful. Thank you, everybody. That was great.
Thanks, guys.
To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the podcast deserves. If you'd like to learn more about how NextThink can help you improve your digital employee experience, head over to nextthink.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.